All right, so we're estimating sums and differences. In order to estimate sums and differences, an estimate in itself means that we're going to do what? What does it mean if someone tells you to estimate the answer to a problem? Opinion. And so we're going to round it and then solve it. So right now, because we know we're going to be estimating sums, we know that we're going to have to round. So on your whiteboards, these 6 problems. Practicing rounding, getting ready for our next thing. I need 6 volunteers. Avery, number 1. Luke, 2. Cheyenne, 3. Walker, 4. Five and 6. Here, the pins are right here. Go. You have to select the eraser, and when somebody's erasing, all right, now stop. There. All 6 of you can write at the same time. Try not to drag your sleeve there, Avery. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. All right, we're going to take a look at our answers. The first one, it says 12 and 345 thousandths rounded to the nearest hundred. 12 and 35 hundredths. So look, we had a 4, right? 4, next to the 4 is a 5. 4 is going to get rounded up. They rounded it up. We don't need the 0. Okay? Next, we're rounded to the 10th. So we look at next to the 10th, and we have 593 and 197 thousandths. So we have a 7 in the thousandth spot, which means the 9 is going to round up. That rounds to 10. So we bring the 1 over here, and we regroup, which is going to make it 593 and 2/10. They have 200,000. We don't need the zeros. And I'll rewrite it just so it's cleaner, even though he's right. Okay, so that's all you need right there. Next one, we're going to round to the ones place. 82 and 300ths. Rounding to the ones place, which is the 2. Next to that's a 0, so it's going to stay at 2. Right there, 82. Okay? And number 4, we're rounding to the tenths place. So 9 and 164 thousandths. Rounding to the tenths place, there's a 6 next to it. We're rounding the 1 to a 2. We don't need the zeros. 9 and 2/10 is the answer. Okay? Now we're going down to the bottom, and you remember we talked about THS? When it has THS at the end of it, what side of the decimal is it on? The right side of the decimal. This is the tens place. We want the tenths place, which has the 2 in it. So we'll fix this one up real quick. All right. So we have 816 and 295 thousand. So we're rounding to the tenths place, which is the 2. We look next to it, it's the 9. All right, so the 2 is going to go up. So it's going to be 816 and 3/10. Last one is the tens place. So we're rounding the 7 right there. We look next to the 7 and 579 and 139 thousandths. We're going to round the 7. We look at the 9. The 7 has to go up. We have an answer of 580. That is perfect. Good job. All right, so there's our answers. Remember, today we're going to estimate, which means we're going to what? And We are going to round and then solve. Okay, we're going to complete the table by rounding to the given place value, and then we're going to subtract. We're going to write the differences in the table. So each one of these we're going to round to the nearest 100 here, and then we're going to round to the nearest 10 over here. So we're going to estimate our differences 2 different ways for each of these 4 problems. On your whiteboards, get started. Alright, so we're going to complete these by rounding to, this says round to the nearest 100, so I'm going to round 763 to 800. And let's make this thing just a little bit smaller. And 800 minus 159, I'm looking at the 5, so that means it's going to be 200. So 800 minus 200 equals 600. Alright. Now we're rounding to the nearest 10. So this is 760. Subtract 160, which equals 600. Okay? 429, 400. Subtract 147, 100. Which equals 300. Okay? 429 to the nearest 10 is 430. Subtract 147 to the nearest 10 is 150, which equals 0, 8, 280. 662 nearest 100 is 700. Subtract 236 is 200, which equals 500. And then we have 660. 660. Subtract 240 equals 420. 420. And the last one we have 800. Subtract 100, which equals 700. And I know I'm standing in the way for some of you. I will show you in just a second. And to the nearest 10 is 820. 820. Subtract 80, which equals 740. 740. All right. So there you go. So you can see that by coming up with their estimate in 2 different ways, rounding to the nearest 100, rounding to the nearest 10, sometimes they stay the same, but they don't always stay the same. All right. The first one we have 600 for both of our answers, but then they kind of change a little bit. 300, 280, 500, 420, 700, 740. So we need to make sure that when they tell us what place value to round to, that we round to that place value before we solve. Okay? All right, we're moving on. All right, so Mrs. Weaver spent $54.32 for groceries and $33.61 for gasoline. She must drive a hybrid. It costs me $90 to fill my truck. About how much did she spend it all? Estimate in 2 ways. So we're going to estimate in 2 ways. So give me one way I can estimate this answer. Opinion. I can round to the hundreds. I probably wouldn't estimate that way for this answer, because there's nothing in the hundreds place, so that would end up giving me, all right, tens place. So I can round to the tens place. So I'm going to round 54 and 32 hundredths to 50. And I'm going to add that to 33 and 61 hundredths, which if I round to the tens place is the 3, so that would be 30. So 50 plus 30 equals 80. So that would be one way that I could round it. that I could estimate it? What would be another way that I could estimate this answer? Round to the ones place. That would be another good way. So 54 and 3200ths, if I round to the ones place, it's going to be 54. Then I'm going to add that to 33 and 6100ths, which if I round to the ones place, it's going to go up because there's a 6 in the tenths. So that's going to be 34, which will equal 88. All right. So there are two different ways that I can estimate my answer for this word problem. Okay. All right. In your math book, example number 1. It says Hadassah used a digital thermometer to find the morning temperature and afternoon temperature. She found the morning temperature was 31 and 3/10 of a degree Fahrenheit, and the afternoon temperature was 37 and 6/10 of a degree Fahrenheit. Estimate the difference in average temperatures. So, one way is to round to the nearest 10. Round 37 to the nearest 10. 37 and 6/10 to the nearest 10. So 37 and 6/10 rounded to the nearest 10 is what? 40, exactly. Then 31 and 3/10 to the nearest 10 is what?
30.
So now I have 40 subtract 30, which equals what?
10.
So this is saying that a difference of about 10 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay? Now we're going to come over here and it's going to say round to the nearest 1. Okay, so 37 and 6/10 rounded to the nearest 1 is what, class?
38.
38. And 31 and 3/10 rounded to the nearest 1 is?
31.
31. So now we have 38 subtract 31, which is
37.
30. Who said this?
It's 7.
It's 7. And I started writing stuff. 7. Alright? So the difference is about 10 degrees Fahrenheit or about 7 degrees Fahrenheit. Now the actual difference is 6 and 3/10 Fahrenheit. So rounded to the nearest what gave us the more accurate estimate?
1.
Did rounding to the nearest 10 or rounding to the nearest 1 give us the closest answer to our actual answer? 1. Okay? The furthest, when you're estimating, the further that you get away from the digit that has the least value, the further that you get from that, the greater difference you'll usually have in your answer. Okay? Does that make sense? So if there would have been a hundreds place, if we rounded to the hundreds place, then our difference would be even greater than it was when we were in the tens place. Okay? All right. Number 2 says estimate 5 and 2600ths plus 1 and 9300ths by rounding to the nearest 1. Rounding to the nearest 1. So 5 and 2600ths rounded to the nearest 1 is what? 5. And 1 and 9300ths rounded to the nearest 1 is what? 2. So now we're going to add these. We have 5 plus 2 equals, so our sum is about, alright. Now, later we're going to show you how to actually add the decimals. I like to do this and use this line as my decimal. So we have 5, 2, 6, 1, 9, 3, and then we add them. And wherever the line is, the decimal goes. And we just add like normal. 6 plus 3 is 9. 2 plus 9 is 11. Carry our 1, or regroup our 1. And that gives us 7. So we have 7. Our line is and, or the decimal, 1900. So, like that. Okay? And you guys will see more of that. We're going to go over that more Right now, all I need you to worry about is you are going to round and add. Round and subtract. We're estimating sums. Okay. We're going to round each decimal to the nearest one, and then we're going to add or subtract. And that's what we're going to do for guided practice. And then I'm going to give you guys, you should be able to finish this stuff up within this class period before you have to go, which will be good because we're going to play with some more decimals this afternoon. All right. So we're going to round to the nearest one. 2 8/10 rounded to the nearest one is 3. 1 3/10 rounded to the nearest one is. So now I have 3 plus 1, which equals 4. So 2 8/10 plus 1 3/10 is about 4. All right. The word problems take a little bit longer, but pretty much this is, if you can round 5 9/800, round to the nearest one is 1 300, round to the nearest one is 6, subtract 1 is 5. So you can see, as long as you round correctly, the math is going to be, well, yeah. My first grader comes home with math problems like that once the rounding is done. Yeah? Okay. So, keep track of the rounding, and the rest of it you shouldn't have a problem with. Make sure you read. Make sure you follow the operation. So look at, we have addition, subtraction, addition, addition, subtraction, addition. So they're mixing them up. So that would be the other thing that can mess you up. All right. What does it say you're going to round to for 3 through 9? Nearest one. And then 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Addition, subtraction, subtraction, addition, subtraction. Pay attention. Don't get mixed up. What are you going to round to for those ones? The nearest 10. Okay, then we have some word problems. Read the directions. Solve exercises 15 through 17 by rounding to the nearest 1. Okay? So there's 15, 16, 17. Rounding all those to the nearest 1. 18 says find the error. You need to figure out what she did wrong. Okay? And then you're going to correct it. $19. When is estimating an effective tool? I think you guys can figure this out. When would you estimate? Why would you want to estimate? Okay? And that's it. Your answers for today's homework will be on our YouTube channel for you to look at and check your answers if you need to later today. So you're going to do I did 1 and 2. You're going to do 3 through 19 right now. You have about 20 minutes before recess.